Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Asher Marketing Podcast. My guest tonight is Scott Hinderman from the Fort Wayne Airport Authority. Scott, thanks for being with us here tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We were just talking about the fact we're both transplants from other parts of the world. Cold places, but Scott's origins are a little colder than mine. You're from Minnesota originally. Tell us a little bit about where you're from.
It's actually southern Minnesota. I was born and raised...
So the warm part of Minnesota.
Yeah, right. It's a tropical Minnesota.
Yes.
So I was born and raised on a farm. My parents still live there. My brother and sister still live there. I think I knew probably, that second or third grade, I was not going to live in Minnesota. The winters can get pretty brutal, especially if you don't have the winter toys, snowmobiles, skis, and all that stuff.
Sure.
But it was a great place to be born and raised, a small town called Sleepy Eye, Minnesota.
Okay, that's a great name.
It is. Town of maybe 3,000, 4,000 people.
All right.
Everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
So when I got in trouble as a high school kid, everybody told my dad tomorrow, the next morning.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But again, it was fond memories of the area. Small town. If you're going to try to get into aviation like I did, there's not a huge career path or things to do in small town Sleepy Eye.
Sure. Well, it's called Sleepy Eye, so it must be pretty sleepy. So you moved now to comparatively balmy Indiana, and we're glad that you're here. So, Scott, as we discussed before the recording started, on this podcast, we talk about 3 things. We talk about your career path, talk about your organization, and then some of the projects you're working on. So I'd like to start with career path, and one of the things that intrigues me about you is the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, you actually studied aviation in college, and I'd like to hear about your background and maybe talk about that a little bit, but you can start before it, you can start in the middle of it, whatever is comfortable to you. So tell us how you basically progressed to where you are today.
Well, I'll go back to Minnesota. As a farm boy, all the aircraft, whether it's crop dusters or we were right in between Minneapolis and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the way the aircraft would fly. So there was a lot of airplanes flying over all the time. So I kind of fell in love with aviation without really knowing what aviation is. So my intention was to go to college to become a professional pilot. I got my private pilot license while I was still in high school. Okay. Because I was looking forward to a career even while I was still in high school. Looking at what to do, I always, did some reading research. And if you're a pilot, there's a statement out there that you're one bad physical of being unemployed. You have to be healthy to be flying. Sure. So I went to the University of North Dakota. They have a huge aviation program, kind of similar to Purdue, but I'm from the north. Yeah. A little bit closer to home. And they actually have a business degree that specializes in aviation administration. So I have a BBA in aviation administration. It does have professional pilots, so I came out with my commercial instrument pilot license. But it also, kind of specializes in how to run a business. Its focus group, you could have gone from my degree, you could have gone into airports, aircraft maintenance, airline, anything aviation related in a business environment. Okay. Someplace in my college career, I just kind of said, flying is a great time. It's exciting. It's fun. But when you're piloting and you are actually sitting up there hoping for bad weather just because you want a challenge. Yeah, sure. I didn't know that I was going to be the person who sits in the cockpit for an entire career. Yeah. So I moved away from piloting and went down a different path. Okay. So when is the most recent time when you've flown? Is it something you still do, or is it something you stopped doing a while ago? No, it's been 15 plus years since I've piloted command myself, mostly because, my wife and I are empty nesters now, but, I had 3 kids, and when they started wanting to go to college, my hobby, if you will, had to subside. Yeah. Which is fine, and I don't have any regrets. Sure. Great kids. They got through college. They're all doing their own thing now. So. Yeah. So and you said you've been in Indiana for about 11 years. Is that correct? 13. 13. Okay. What were your initial impressions of Indiana? Was it like home? Was it different? What struck you about Indiana when you first moved here? I would say now it's very much like home, with the exception of, summers are maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks on each end, a little bit longer, or come a little bit earlier. But when I first moved, might not be fair because when I came to Fort Wayne via Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
Cheyenne, Wyoming, I kind of call that big sky country.
Yeah.
You can get 4 inches of snow in the morning, and in the afternoon, it's 50.
Yeah.
But every day the sun is bright. It's, so when I first came to Fort Wayne, I think it's a little bit of a hangover where I had forgotten how gray skies the Midwest can be in the winter months.
Sure.
I have forgotten that, hey, you really want to have it really, really, really cold because that's when it's a blue sky.
Yeah, sure.
But I like Fort Wayne. It's the longest I've lived in one spot other than my high school or growing up, my childhood, if you will. I like Fort Wayne. My kids went through their schools. We call Fort Wayne home.
Okay. So Minnesota to college in the Dakotas to Cheyenne to Fort Wayne. Any other stops along the way?
Oh, yeah. There's a handful.
Okay.
In college, like probably most college kids, especially if you're going down an aviation career path, I needed some financial assistance. So I entered in the Marine Corps Officer Candidate School program.
Okay.
So the Marine Corps actually gave me a little bit help to pay for college.
Okay.
They also had a program to where you could, sign on the dotted line to become an officer,
Sure.
and they guaranteed you kind of an MOS or your career path or your job. So I did go into aircraft maintenance for the Marine Corps. I was in charge of several different kind of helicopters: the 53 Echo, the 46, the Cobra, and the Huey. I went into the Marine Corps knowing darn well that I'd be coming out. It was not going to be a lifer in it. Just because the time I went in, I did serve in the Gulf War, and that might have been not the Gulf War, but the fact that I was in, when I was getting out, I sat down and programmed the time. My time in the military, I was deployed 48% of the time.
Okay.
And that's just not how I was going to raise my...
Sure. Got
3 daughters, and that's not how I wanted to raise.
Sure.
That said, nobody ever can do this, and maybe everybody says it, but I can truly say I believe it, and I would. If you could roll back time and do things over again, I would again enter into the Marine Corps. I had a really good time. I learned a lot. They taught me a lot of leadership. But that said, I would also get out again.
So you did it the right way.
I did. I've done things the wrong way, but that's when I would really. And I look back on the day where, I could actually have retired. But I enjoyed my time. I would get out. So when I come out of the military, we were in North Carolina, warmer weather. So we enjoyed that. But my wife is from North Dakota. I'm from Minnesota. So we thought, well, let's kind of move in that happy medium. We had forgotten how cold the North was. So we actually moved to Fargo, and I got a job at the Fargo airport. It was an entry level, trying to get back into the civilian world. So I got a job at the Fargo airport, and then it snowed. And the wind started blowing. And so I knew pretty quick that someplace other than Fargo. So I was only there for about 6 months. And then I went to Peoria, Illinois. I did spend 10 years at Peoria. I left Peoria, 2001. 10 years I spent there. Left as a director of operations and maintenance to take the job in Cheyenne as the airport manager. And Cheyenne was great. If you like the West, Cheyenne is kind of on the plains or the foothills of the mountains, if you will. So you're not in the mountains, but you're a short Saturday morning drive to go play in the mountains.
You have great views.
We do. And I really enjoyed it, but it was a good drive to come back to see family. And then this opportunity came open. I can't tell you that I really knew what Fort Wayne was, where it was, other than I knew it was in Indiana, but I didn't know much about the city. But when the position came open, I thought, hey, it's worth looking at. So then you just get online, start. Hey, what's the quality of life? What's that? And I am of the school that, I came here because of the job. The quality of life, the cost of living was added. And the quality of life, the cost of living, and all the amenities that Fort Wayne has is probably why I'm still here. So
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. I always say that, when I moved here, it was just pre-internet. It was right around the time when America Online came out. And honestly, my impression of Indiana is that I thought it was one of those square states out by Texas. I couldn't even pick it out on a map. And now I've lived here for 26 years. So I had less knowledge coming in than you did. But so you did quite a bit in aviation before starting a career on the business side. Is that common, or is that relatively unique?
Well, I think it's pretty common. I think the entry level trying to get into aviation is it might be. Of course, I might be biased. It might be a career path that's difficult to get in. Mm-hmm. It's highly rewarding once you get in, sure. And it takes a good amount of hard work to get there. Too many people maybe think the only way to get in is to become a pilot, and maybe I did too. Because sure. Again, my thought was to be a pilot. There's a lot going on in aviation,
sure,
and there's a huge shortage. There is a shortage. There used to be a shortage, of pilots. Mm-hmm. But with COVID-19, some of the reduction in the airline capacity has taken care of that. Yeah. At least for the next 3 to 4 years.
Sure.
And then it might be augmented because less people are going into it because of COVID, and also now their
sure.
Staffing personnel will limit growth capabilities.
Sure.
Aircraft mechanics. It's a huge shortage. Mm-hmm. Ivy Tech, they actually have an aircraft maintenance program. Yep. You can come out with an associate's degree, and you can walk right into a $55,000, $60,000 paying job.
Yep.
Without a 4-year, without all that huge college debt.
Sure.
And we have a good program or a good repair shop right here at the airport. So and you can go anywhere. Once you get your aircraft maintenance certificate, you pretty much work on aircraft.
Yep.
So. And then even to whether it's the airlines, whether it's fixed base operators, or whether you're selling fuel, mm-hmm. pilot supplies,
sure.
chartering aircraft, brokering aircraft. So there's just so much you can do with an aviation background. I do think it's kind of the trick is how to get started.
Sure.
And then there might be the story is once you get started, you either love it or hate it.
Yep.
And those who love it just can't get away from it, mm-hmm. and those who hate it, they, do it for a year and say,
can't get away from it fast enough.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and thanks for the plug for Ivy Tech. They're good friends of Asher, and I was glad I didn't have to make that plug, but they do have a great program, and that's a facility that I'm sure is important to you.
It is.
In the work you do at Fort Wayne Airport. So let's talk a little bit. To me, one of the most fascinating things, I worked for a very small period of time for the Massachusetts Port Authority, which runs Logan Airport in Boston. And I learned a little during that time, but it was fascinating to me how much there was to know about running an airport and how complex it is. So tell us a little bit about your organization. Obviously, when most people think of the airport, they think of commercial flights. They go there, they go through security, they wait at the gate, they get on the plane, they go to their destination, and they think that's everything the airport does. But I'm sure there's more to it than that. So how do you describe the place where you spend your working hours?
Well, hopefully I'll answer it, but I guess I'll start. You worked for a port authority mm-hmm. at one point. Fort Wayne, we're a big small town, is how mm-hmm. I always call it.
Yep.
The airport authority is who I work for. The
yep.
airport authority is a board. They hire the executive director, that's me,
yep.
and then I hire staff that I feel is necessary to run the functions of our airport system. I say airport system because the airport authority is responsible for Smithfield Airport mm-hmm. and Fort Wayne International Airport. There's not a lot of towns our size that actually have 2 airports in their community. Mm-hmm. And we have that. Smithfield is a great facility. They have a lot of flight instruction up there. It is a smaller airport. It's designed for small aircraft that don't need real long runways. And that's what's there. And it serves the community very well. And then Fort Wayne, obviously we have the Air National Guard all the way to all kinds of things. We have probably the second largest runway in the state, mm-hmm. Outside of Grissom Air Force Base, mm-hmm. Just short of 12,000 foot. And our second runway is 8,000. Put things in perspective, Chicago Midway, their longest runway is 6,500. So the infrastructure that the Allen County or
yep.
Northeast Indiana has in an airport system is amazing.
Is that just because of land availability, or is there another reason why the runways here are longer than I would expect the opposite? But
well, you need a certain amount of runway to be relevant.
Sure.
But I'm not so sure we need 12,000.
Sure.
But it is there, and it's in great condition, and we always maintain it. if you have infrastructure, you just don't take it away for fun. It's probably back in the days when we had a military presence, which we still have now, but we had the F-16, and when you even have that, we're probably back up to Wright-Patterson as well as Grissom Air Force Base because we have the runway length.
Yep.
We did have a significant presence in cargo, so that helped us with the runway length. We even have plans to build a parallel runway, and those plans are master planning. I doubt that I'll see that runway. I'm not so sure my kids will see it.
Sure.
But as a public body, you always want to make sure you're doing some planning to how the airport can always meet the demand of your region.
Yep.
So, but at the airport, I feel, I will tell you as an executive director, if you really want to run the airport, you might be the director of operations. If you might be down in the weeds a little bit more, but as an executive director, and I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed with really good people. So I think a lot of time my job is to create a positive working environment, establish a great culture, and then to some degree get out of the way. So those people who you hired can do their job and more likely do it better than I can.
As we discussed before we hit the record button, that's my job today, is hiring smart people and working to keep them and staying out of their way as much as possible.
It is that. And but we're a small airport, so we have nobody is a specialist. So if you go to a large airport like Logan, when you were out there, somebody might be, hey, I'm the wildlife hazardous manager, and pretty much that's all they're going to do. So we're a small airport, and we have bench strength to where we have people who focus on this, but they also can pick up the sticks and come over here if someone takes, maternity leave or departs to go take a different opportunity. So we're a little bit more of the jacks of all trade. But Fort Wayne, we touch pretty much every segment of aviation that's out there. Again, we are a joint use airport at Fort Wayne International. So the Air National Guard is there. It is a civilian airport. The joint use is civilian airport, and the Air Guard has a long-term lease over on some of the part, and they use our airfield. Still our airfield, we maintain it, but their base, we don't maintain that. That is the Air Force base, but the Air Force treats the airport as if it's an Air Force base. They do that intentionally, so when they deploy and go in harm's way, they have to maintain the airfield, the taxiways, the runways, the lighting. They need to know how to do that, so when they deploy, they can. So they treat our airport as if it's theirs, but it's really a community asset. Then we still have cargo. We used to have a large cargo presence with Kitty Hawk, but we still have cargo in the sense of both FedEx and UPS come in. So that's the second segment of aviation that we have. They both come in with 757s twice nightly. So even if you're listening and you're from the Fort Wayne area and says, I don't really fly that much, I don't use the airport, it might not be right. If you ever get a shipment,
may not, but your stuff may use the airport.
If you ever get a shipment from an Amazon or a FedEx or a UPS, it more than likely came through our airport. Maybe if it's 5-day delivery, it can be came by truck, but if it was something that you wanted in a relatively quick period, it came through your airport, and I say I airport. Our facility is a public facility. I don't get to inherit the airport to my children. It's a community asset.
Too bad for them. Well, another question. I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of the Fort Wayne Airport, having grown up near a large airport. I love the fact, and my friends back home in Massachusetts don't believe me when I tell them this, but there have been times when I have left my home and been through security in 15 minutes. And I love the fact that it's very low stress. You have to take it seriously, obviously, with security and everything else. But generally, if you're fourth in line, it's a long line at the Fort Wayne Airport. We also, in this area, we're blessed with choice because there's other airports that are nearby. Why would you say to someone, obviously you want more traffic, you want people to use their home airport, and I would encourage people to do that because it's a great community asset and is only going to stay in the community if people use it. But what do you think are the advantages that flying into or out of Fort Wayne offers over other airports from your perspective?
Well, if you're from Fort Wayne and you choose to fly, free free America, right? It's free enterprise. You can fly
Yep,
wherever your
sure.
choice. But if you from Fort Wayne, if you decide to fly out of Fort Wayne, when you come home, there is nothing better about when you get home. And now I'm able to go to bed in 15 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to going to a different
Definitely.
airport, whether it's Chicago or
Yeah.
there are other Detroit, Indy,
Yeah.
Columbus.
Yeah.
Hey, just came home and gosh, now it's snowing like a dog, and
Yeah.
I'm holding my eyeballs open because I can't stay awake.
Yeah.
Possibly the biggest thing I mean, that's one,
Yeah, sure,
convenience. And
sure.
we work really hard. Airport staff works really hard to make sure that we are bringing all the amenities that are needed,
Yep.
are sought after, or asked from the community to our airport, as well as we're making sure it's clean, friendly,
Yep.
easy to get through.
Yes.
Just because we're a small airport, we still have the same compliance requirements for the TSA, same
Yep. Sure.
everything. So the safety, security is all there right in your own backyard.
Yeah.
I do ask people all the time. Of course, I work at the airport.
Sure.
I do ask people, please, if you're going to fly and you're not going to fly Fort Wayne, did you at least look at it? Our pricing is typically in line with
Yep.
wherever you're going, and the way the airlines price their product. If you get a really cheap fare, it's because you probably bought it and that airline doesn't have many customers on it at this time. If you look at a fare, any airport, not just ours,
Yep.
and the airlines, the ticket is really expensive, well, you might be buying one of the last 5 to 7 tickets
Yep.
on the airplane.
Yeah.
So it is they've got the pricing modeling of supply and demand
Yep.
down really well.
Yeah.
If you go someplace else to fly, it's whether you're flying or whether you're buying a car or whatever you're doing, you're taking your dollars and you're transferring your economic impact from your own town
Yep.
and giving it to a different community.
Yeah.
And that might make sense. In the airport world, we call that leakage. So if somebody lives in the Fort Wayne area and they fly a different airport, we call that person as a leaked passenger.
Yep.
Every airport has leakage. Chicago O'Hare has leakage.
Sure.
But that might be because, in Chicago, it says, hey, I live here, but I'm going to drive to Fort Wayne because my mom lives in Fort Wayne, and we're going to fly together
Yes,
because she wants
sure.
assistance.
Sure.
So, Chicago O'Hare doesn't have a lot of leakage.
Yeah,
We
sure.
got leakage.
Yeah.
But we would prefer to people to use their hometown
Sure.
airport when they fly.
Yeah.
But my answer is, if you can't, you can't.
Yeah, sure.
But please tell me you at least checked us.
For sure. Well, and I can speak to your first point. My son and I went to Australia 2 years ago, and we flew Fort Wayne to Dallas-Fort Worth to Sydney, and I cannot tell you how great it was to land in Fort Wayne and be home in 15 minutes after traveling for 28 hours.
Well, and I've talked to a lot of people and they said, I flew out of Indy or I flew out of whatever airport, and they said, it really wasn't that bad of a drive down there. But when we landed and we're coming home, it was horrible.
Yeah.
That last bit of a drive when you just wanted to be home
for sure.
was painful.
For sure.
To which my answer was, well, good for you.
Sure. So do you think it's primarily driven by perceptions of price, why people may not be as inclined to fly out of their home airport? Any idea why that is?
I think it's all price.
Yeah.
And price could be, we have Allegiant, and not to plug any particular airline,
Sure.
but we have Allegiant, and they have done very well. Their whole model, their business plan is based on the leisure traveler.
Yep.
So if you're going to go see a mouse in Florida for vacation,
Yep.
got a family of 5.
Those numbers add up.
Prior to
Yeah.
Allegiant being here,
Yeah.
because Allegiant has a very attractive pricing model.
Yep.
But hey, if you could save $75 to $100 a ticket, big deal. If you're going by
Sure.
yourself,
Sure.
or if you're going on a business trip,
Yep.
or even if you are going on a honeymoon,
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a dollar, but if you're taking 3 kids and a wife,
Sure.
and it's 5
Sure.
of you, it starts to get to be real money.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I try to factor in, and hopefully other people do too, is the cost of gas, the cost of a hotel if you're staying overnight, and just the cost of time, which I don't think people think about. So
I agree. And at least if you're flying for business, I hope you're thinking about time,
Yeah.
because your boss isn't paying you to sit in
Correct.
and look through a windshield on a car.
Correct, yeah.
You could fly at the local airport,
Yep.
pull some laptop out and get
Sure.
some work done
Yep.
on our free Wi-Fi.
Yep.
See how I work that in?
That's great, yeah.
And,
Feel free to keep doing that, yeah.
But I mean, there's some things where you can be productive if you're flying for work. And,
Sure.
too many people think that, the airport's here and I don't really fly that. They lose sight of the fact that the airport is here. Half our passengers are not residents. Half the people are people coming to Fort
Yep.
Wayne to do business,
Yeah.
or to see mom and dad, or vacation.
Yeah, sure.
It goes both ways.
Yeah.
So, and we like it when people say, "Hey, I'm going to Fort Wayne to do business." It just frustrates me when someone who's flying for business and they choose a different airport only to, rent a car,
Yeah.
drive for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if the boss is requiring you to do that, then you got to wonder, boy, the boss just doesn't value my time with
Sure.
my family,
Sure.
my time as an employee.
Sure.
And again, to be fair, there are some people, I do believe, who are traveling to a different airport to start their flight because they might have an anxiety of flying and they want that direct flight.
Yep.
And, we are a connecting airport.
Sure.
Our country created a hub and spoke environment.
Yep.
And we are a spoke. So now we're attractive. We have 7 hubs that we serve. And then we have 5 and then 6 seasonal markets with Allegiant. So we have, 12 to 13 direct flight destinations, 7 of which are hub for connectivity. We're very well connected. And a little bit of that is, I'll say it's all because I work really hard. That's not it. A little bit of that is just geography is for where we are. We
Yeah.
are in kind of Central America, so we have good access to the
Sure.
Atlanta,
Yep.
Detroit, Chicago. We still have Philadelphia service, Charlotte,
Yep.
Dallas, Atlanta. So we have good connectivity. Love to have the only hub that we really need that we don't have is Denver. And we were getting close to getting that. That's probably not going to happen right now
Sure.
until the industry can do a
Sure.
little bit more recovery.
Sure.
But we will get it. It's just not a matter of if; it is a matter of when.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you from a customer service standpoint, I have a big passion for customer service, and 2 quick stories. There's a friend of mine who has a customer service training business who actually uses the airport as sort of a hallmark for customer service. The cookies, when you get off the flight, the covered shuttle that'll take you to your car if it's raining, stuff that I think we in Fort Wayne, if you only fly out of Fort Wayne, you think that's every airport. That's not every airport.
Yeah, I can't think of another airport that works hard to make
Yeah.
sure every passenger gets some kind of something.
Yeah.
And in our case, it's a cookie.
Yeah.
If I'm in the airport industry, so when you go around and talk to other airports, even people who have never been to Fort Wayne, you say, "Oh, you're from Fort Wayne? Oh, you're that cookie airport."
Yeah.
So we are pretty well known in the industry of giving cookies out, and the attraction of that is, it's a cookie made from Ellison Bakery right across the street. So. You get that cookie, and then you walk outside and you smell the scent of freshly baked cookies, and I got to think people are saying, "Man, that's a special touch. How are they doing that?"
Yeah.
In reality, the factory's right across the street.
Sure. You have the scent piped in.
Yeah.
But and the other thing that I've heard multiple times, having family outside of the areas, when they come in, they are really impressed with the airport and the level of customer service and how easy it is to get in and out. So I think we've got a great thing. We've got a great thing in the airport, and it's just a matter of as many people as possible supporting it.
Yep.
So anything else you want people to know about the place where you work or the people you work with? What are some little known facts that you might want people to know about?
Okay, well, 2020 is going to go down with an asterisk.
Yeah.
And that's probably true of not just airports or airline industry. It's probably true of most every business in
Sure.
not our country, the globe.
That's right.
The pandemic has been impactful for everybody.
Yeah.
But prior to that, and this again is not me breaking my arm because I work at the airport, but and I do fly, but I'm not flying to make any true impact. But we've had 10 years of growth, 10 consecutive years of growth, and sure, someone could say, yeah, that might just because of the recovery of the big recession, and to some degree, that's true. But
Sure.
in 2016, we broke an all-time record, which we broke that record in 17. We broke that record in 18 and 19. January 2020 and February of 2020, we were at the conclusion of February, we were up 14%. So we were well on our way of killing it.
Yep.
We were doing real well. And then the pandemic
Sure.
descended upon us.
Sure.
But the airport is, whether you live in Fort Wayne or wherever you live, if you want to look at your regional GDP or the overall health of your economy, go to your airport and see how many passengers you got. Because again, passengers are both local residents as
Yep.
well as half of them are outside of your
Sure.
area. If your airport's growing, that's a quick indicator that you have strong economic input or growth in your region, because people are coming to do business or people are leaving to do
Sure.
business and bring in that,
Yeah.
whether it's product sales, whatever, back.
Sure.
So I've always said that. It does have a small lag, but maybe less of a lag because employment traffic or passenger traffic is more readily available than waiting for a whole quarter to pass
Sure.
before you can see it.
Yeah.
But the airport authority, both Fort Wayne and Smithfield, we work hard to make sure people are proud of their airport system in Northeast Indiana.
Yep.
We do serve, the Western Ohio.
Yep.
Maybe even a little bit of a sliver of the Michigan area.
Sure.
And we just want people, and you've said it, and I appreciate that it's hard to believe how easy it is to get
Yeah.
in and out of Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
We work hard. Our bathrooms, not to talk about bathrooms, but nobody wants to go into a
Yeah.
public restroom and see that it's dirty.
Yeah.
We get a lot of compliments because we work hard to make sure that those areas that people
Yeah.
want clean are clean.
Yeah.
We have stepped up our cleaning procedures because of COVID. Unbelievable.
Yep.
So, and quite frankly, the shame of it is, we've always were clean, but some of our cleaning procedures, it's too bad that it took a pandemic to do some of the frequency of disinfecting that we are now doing.
Sure.
Even if we all get vaccinated tomorrow
Yeah.
and COVID kind of subsides, it's going to stick around.
Sure.
It will help out even for the influenza, the
Sure.
cold season.
Sure.
So some of those things, and that's not true of, I don't believe it's true of just the Fort Wayne airport system.
Yeah.
I think that's true of the airline as well.
Sure.
Is what we've learned through this is, if we have, it's a little bit of doing the right thing.
Yep.
If we have the ability, we have the knowledge, why wouldn't we? And we will.
For sure. Well, I think the watchword to me is that it's a very friendly airport. Obviously, again, secure, safe, but mainly friendly. That's what I hear people say. And while it's kind of a cliche, it's kind of corny, it kind of is reflective of Fort Wayne. So great job. Well, speaking of the specter of COVID-19 and coronavirus, let's talk about some of the things you're working on right now, whether they're related to the pandemic or if you're more future focused. Some of the things you're working on right now that are most interesting, most challenging, top of mind. Don't have to talk about everything you're working on, but a few examples of things that you think would be interesting for people to hear about.
Yeah, I got two, and they would be interested in whether it was COVID-19 or not. The first one is the one thing about the airport, you got long runways, it takes a fair amount of real estate. So we are right around 4,000 acres strong, and we have a little bit of land that is adjacent to the airfield, but it's divided by Smith Road and Indianapolis Road. We have been working through last several months with a developer about selling that piece of ground. In order to sell lands, it takes a fair amount of work. You have to get land released from the
Sure.
federal government or the FAA. There's a whole a lot of issues that we have to do. But that piece of ground is, we're really close, probably within the next 30 days of selling that, and that developer has got a client who will be bringing new jobs to the community.
Great.
In a sizable quantity.
Yep.
So it's exciting. I wish I could talk more about it. It would certainly increase your listenership, if you will.
Yeah. Well, our goal in this podcast is to get no one in trouble. So
there, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. So,
Yeah.
and that's been a fun project. So, and that's
great.
actually a project that doesn't really have an aviation background requirement. That's
Yeah,
just
sure.
business development.
Sure.
Which we work on business development, whether it's increasing our corporate presence with corporate air and charter
Yep.
aircraft or airlines. But this business development has been, a little bit of a different element.
Sure.
So it's been fun going through that process of learning new things and enticing companies to come and develop on property that is really not aviation related.
Sure.
Probably the bigger thing that's it is COVID related. Obviously, we're down this year. Just the entire industry is down. We have 8 gates at our terminal building, and our terminal building was built in 54 or 55, 1954 or 5, and then its last major remodel was done in '93. And in '93, we still had turboprop aircraft, and we were just starting to see the regional jet aircraft, the 50-seat regional jet. So we have 8 gates, but today we have 8 gates that we cannot put 8 aircraft on at the same time because of the wingspans. They're bigger aircraft, and we have wingtip conflict if they're parked. So we have been working on what we call Project Gateway, and it is going to be an expansion of the terminal building and a remodel. We are doing that in 2 different phases, just because, right? It's not like someone's going to build you a house. We're going to try to live in the house while we're trying to expand it and build it.
Still going to stay in business.
Right.
So is this more gates, or are they just spaced apart further, or a combination of the 2?
It's a combination of the 2.
Okay.
We are going to have 10 gates when we're done.
Great.
And we'll be able to put aircraft in all of them when we're done.
Yeah.
But we are doing it in 2 phases. So west, we are working on the west phase. Once we started construction on the west phase, which hopefully will be this April, it was our intention to sign a contract with an architectural to start doing the design of the east side. We are pumping the brakes on the east side right now until we can. We see the recovery not coming in full swing until 2023.
Sure.
So you never want to overbuild, but you don't want to be not ready for the growth.
Sure.
So we needed to get this first part. So we see this. We've been here before, whether it was 9/11, the big recession. We've seen dips in aviation.
Sure.
And it always has come back at a much faster rate. And out of the big recession, it took us 5 years to recover.
Okay.
It took the airline, when I say us, I mean Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana. It took the aviation industry about 7.5 years to recover. So we recovered faster as an airport than most airports in, domestically.
Sure.
So we are doing that. We are working on the construction documents right now. We are doing it through a project delivery method of construction manager as constructor. We've hired Michael Kinder and Sons to perform that function. We should be soliciting bids for each trade, if you will, in that February time frame, and we're excited. Hopefully we'll see some construction ribbon cuttings to start, or groundbreaking, if you will, that April.
Oh, great. Well, that's great for you and great for Fort Wayne. Awesome. So, Scott, the last thing we do on this podcast is kind of a quick hit on 3 questions, similar to ones we've already talked about, but sort of a speed round, if you will. So the first thing I'll ask you is, if you were giving advice to someone, and I'm going to focus on the aviation industry because that's where you've spent most of your time. If you were giving advice to someone who was looking to start a career in the industry, what might you tell them?
Head first. Dive into it. If you want to put your toe into it and just to see if you like it, or you get that part-time job, even if you're back in high school, go for it. But if you feel aviation is where you want to be, I will tell you that it has been very rewarding. It's an exciting industry. So jump in and a lot of hard work, maybe long days, but I can't tell you the old saying where, I love my job. I've never worked a day in my life. Hey, there's been days where I've worked.
Sure.
But there's been a whole lot more days where, oh my gosh, it's time to go home and I'm already late. I enjoy my time.
Yeah.
I went to an aviation school. I don't know that that's required. You do want to have some business acumen to come into it, and then you just need to learn the industry. And possibly true of every industry. If you think aviation, if you don't like reading, get over it. Start reading. Learn about your industry, whether it's periodicals, articles, regulations. Just start learning. And I like reading, so I say that.
Well, it is true in every industry, even in ours, where if you're not a learner, you're not going to last very long. So.
Well, and I have told many people that to where, hey, I got out of college, I'm ready to do my job, and I really don't want to read books anymore. And whoa.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Your education doesn't stop with the diploma, for sure.
If you stop learning, you better check your pulse.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like there's great opportunities in the industry as well. So definitely a career path that if someone, especially at these times when people are reconsidering, what do I do next? It sounds like a great place to at least investigate, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Second quick hit question. Talking about your organization. If somebody stopped you on the street and said, you have 30 seconds, how would you describe the place where you work? And it doesn't have to be exactly 30
Okay,
seconds.
thank you. I'm going to start looking at my watch.
Yeah.
Well, the Airport Authority works hard to make sure that we meet the demands of the travel industry, specifically the airport or the aviation travel industry for our region. It is not just flying an aircraft. It's not just commercial carriers. Too many people think, well, I went there to fly, and that must be the only thing they do. We do much more than that, and we are trying to foster a good environment to where, again, the Airport Authority, we don't own any airplanes. Mm-hmm. We don't own the airlines. We don't tell the airlines, hey, you will start flying here tomorrow. So we try to create an environment to where an airline, cargo, military, corporate aircraft can come in and have ease of operation. That fosters them to be, hopefully, profitable environment. They are a for-profit company, so if they come in here and they can't make any money, chances are they won't be here long. And if you don't like that, if your company wasn't making money, how long would the doors be open, right?
Sure.
So between Fort Wayne and Smithfield, we operate like a business, but at the end of the day, we are public, and we want to make sure that both Smithfield and Fort Wayne are convenient to the users, and we satisfy the travel and needs of Northeast Indiana.
Great. So the last question, and I'm sure you've had the opportunity to do this in reality, not just theoretically, but if you were talking to a peer who was maybe struggling, because right now everybody's facing challenges of some kind, what might you say to a person about the state of the industry, the state of the world, if you will, to encourage them and to help them, see ahead to a day when things are going to be a little better?
I think people need to let go of how things were done. Mm-hmm. Just because the pandemic has made everybody pivot.
Yep.
So you got to get out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. If we've been doing this for 20 years, don't even think that way. Feel fresh. Put yourself back in the shoes when you just got out of college, you got that first job, you were just full of vinegar and all these fresh ideas. Go find that self again.
Yeah.
And then I think the other trick is and I'll say this because it's me.
Yep.
I'm not going to invent the next electronic gizmo that saves the U.S. GDP. Mm-hmm. But I don't think too many people are going to outwork me. Mm-hmm. I enjoy what I do.
Sure.
Most of my days don't feel like work. And then I have been very fortunate. I won't break my arm. Maybe it's all by accident. I have surrounded myself with really good people that have the same kind of a work ethic.
Sure.
And then we created a culture to where, hey, if we're going to work this hard and be with each other, let's make sure we have fun.
Yep.
Right? Because between your hours of work, sleep, and only a little bit of time that you get to spend it off work, you might as well enjoy what you're doing
for sure
all around. So I guess my best advice would be is roll up your sleeves, have fun, work hard, and don't stop learning about your industry.
Yeah, if you're in these times, if you're lucky enough to have your health and the people around you have your health, then it's time to do things differently and enjoy what you're doing and be grateful for what you're able to do. So great perspective. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being here with us. Great story, and appreciate everything you do and everything the airport does for our community. And everyone, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We will see you then.